How do I satisfy 3 men? Hi, my name is Carrie Lane, and this is just one of the questions that I'm going to be answering, as I have 2 husbands and a boyfriend, 3 partners in total. So my videos and photos have been going viral, and this is a continuation to explain or answer some of the questions that you guys have been asking under those videos. So as a recap, I have 3 partners. I have my husband Brett, who I've been with 8 years. I have my husband Jake, who I've been with for 4 years, and I have my boyfriend Aaron, who I've been with for 3 years. Now, one of the first biggest questions that I get is, how do I manage to have the time? How does the schedule work? So that's actually very easy. I am a photographer. I am self-employed, so I make my own schedule. Also, the boys all have different work schedules and they don't overlap. So it conveniently works out that way. So whenever one is off, that's when I'm spending time with them. So their schedules are actually a great reason why this relationship even works. Next question is, what are the sleeping arrangements and how does intimacy work? So each of the boys has their own bedroom. So we live in a 3-bedroom.
My question is, why does she keep calling these grown men boys? It's like the second time she's called them that.
House, and I live with Brett and Jake. Aaron has his own apartment, and so Brett has his own bedroom, Jake has his own bedroom, and then for that 3rd room, I essentially asked myself what I wanted to have the most, which was a personal space. And being a photographer and into all things beauty, I wanted my own, essentially, a dream dressing room, and that's what I have. So how that works is, sleeping schedule wise, depending on who's working. So if Brett is working, I'm not sleeping with him that night, I'm sleeping with the one who isn't. So Jake is off, I'm in Jake's bedroom. Brett is off, I'm in Brett's bedroom. That's how that works. And then Aaron sometimes sleep over, or I will stay in his apartment, and that's how that whole thing works out. Intimacy. So it is 3 separate relationships. The boys are not with each other. They are 3 best friends who happen to fall in love with the same girl. So
I don't understand why she keep calling them boys like that. I don't know if it's some kink or what. Man, it's just strange.
they're just besties. They're all straight. They just share me. And so when it comes to intimacy, it is completely separate. They are not with each other, and we respect that space. Now to the question in the beginning of the video, which is, how do I satisfy 3 men? And honestly, the answer is very easy. They all have different needs. Contrary to popular belief, being with a partner, any partner, doesn't necessarily mean you're always jumping each other's bones, right? Everyone has different levels of need and everyone has different schedules. They are very career oriented. So, they're focusing on their jobs and whatnot, and I am their safe space. I am where they land. You know what I mean? So that's really all I can say about that. The intimacy is separate. They all have different levels of need, which I happen to be able to fulfill. So that's how that goes. Another question I got was, how do the finances work? So Brett and Jake, because we live under the same house, they cover most of the bills, right? That is their choice. I do all the play money. I do all the vacations. I do all the fun stuff, the clothes, any other need.
I can't put my finger on it, but this is not making sense. But we're gonna listen a little bit more.
Or want that they have. Essentially, my job is just to pamper them because they pamper me. And so Aaron also has children, so I also have, I'm the one who takes care of the toys and all the fun stuff, anniversaries, birthdays. I'm really good with those stuff, and I make sure that everyone feels loved, appreciated, and heard. That's all part of it. Here's another good question. Do the boys ever get jealous? So, simple answer, no.
Crazy thing is that kids are actually involved in having to experience this, but I'll speak to it.
And that's because jealousy is wanting what you don't have. And they all have me. Fully, they have my heart, they have my emotions, they have my attention, they have Anything that they could possibly want, they get from me. And should they need anything else, they always communicate with me, because that's a big deal. You can't have polyamory without proper, open communication and trust. So that's super important to expand on the whole jealousy thing, because it is a bigger essentially conversation. Because so in order for my boys to be who they are, right, they have to be incredibly emotionally aware, they have to be socially aware, they have to, be very big on prioritizing mental health, which they all are. And so one of the biggest things,
I'm noticing that she's talking about them like they're children, like almost like they don't know better, or like she has to teach them. And I don't like, again, I don't know why she's talking about them in this way, but it's like, for one, she keeps calling them boys, and she's talking about them like she know they're not on her level, and she's doing them this favor, and they all just so happen to just be in love with her. That's not even the main point of that I kind of want to take away from this video. One of the first things that came to mind is that just because people are doing something and they make it seem like it's working, or they express that they're happy, it doesn't mean that it's the right way to do things. There are people who are committing crimes right now. This isn't a crime so, I mean, other than it being wrong before in the eyes of God, it's not a crime. And there are people who commit crimes all the time with no guilt, no shame. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like, just because people are doing something, saying they're happy, or even experiencing a form of happiness, it doesn't mean it's a good thing.
is that, again, the communication. If anyone is feeling like they're getting less time or whatnot, they will communicate that to me, and we will work on that. And another thing is, because quite frankly, it was hard for me to understand it at first too, but the way my husband explained it was, I just want you to be happy. I get emotional every time I might talk about this. He told me, he goes, I just want you to be happy. He goes, I'm never going to be upset that you are happy. And that's why there's no jealousy in it for him.
I just said that there are people who literally will say that they're happy in something, but it doesn't mean that it's right. Just because, even just like, it's obvious that someone has to say that, I just want you happy. So even if they're offended, even if they're not comfortable, they're willing to say, well, I'm not happy, but I just want you happy. So it's obvious that everything in this situation isn't happiness, because you wouldn't need to say that.
I also want to add in here that Brett has autism. He's on the spectrum. Aaron also has autism and is on the spectrum. And Jake has ADHD. So in their neurodivergent minds, they see the world differently.
This is starting to make sense. I was like, something seems off. I don't know where they land on the spectrum. I'm not sure to what degree his ADHD is, but in the way she was like talking about them like they're boys, like, almost like she takes care of them like they need her. It was telling me like something's not right. And it's starting to make more sense now.
Sometimes in ways that I have a hard time seeing. But it's a beautiful thing, because they help me see the world.
She talks about them like they're her children.
Differently. And I love that. But from their own words, their own lips, and eventually I will make a video with them and they can talk and explain it. But they just don't see a reason to be jealous, because it's all about us getting our needs met and being happy, and that is what's happening, so everyone wins. So another question was, how do date nights work? And like I said, it's same with the intimacy. Date nights are separate, with each of my boys, but we do have communal, I guess, date nights, because...
All right, I've had enough of the boys and all of that kind of talk. At the end of the day, we get what she's saying. She has two two husbands and a boyfriend who lives outside the house. She lives on the roof with two men and is doing life with one outside of the home. Let me just say this again, just because people claim to be happy or they call something love doesn't mean it's right. There are people who love things that are illegal, who love children, and you're an adult. You have no business loving children. There are people who have kinks and fetishes that aren't becoming, aren't wholesome, aren't good for society, aren't good for an individual, aren't respectful of other people's dignity, you know, but they love it and they declare that they love it and they find happiness in it. It doesn't mean it's okay. I can speak you know, to the issues of, you know, what I, what I would call moral disagreement. Like I don't agree morally in the sense of polygamy. I believe marriage and it's supposed to be done between a man and a woman and one man and one woman. So I can speak to that, but that's easy. I think more importantly, especially in our society, we are a society who tends to chase happiness, who tend to, use words outside of what they are truly um, supposed to mean. Love and happiness are words that are from God, and He's defined them. And then marriage is something that He's designed, and all these things should be operated within the original design and according to the definitions. But at the same time, we as humans, we tend to try to just do whatever we want. Ultimately, it's not healthy, it's not wholesome, and things either usually blow up in our face or we actually end up missing out on opportunities to do life in a beautiful way. She mentioned there being children involved. This is not what children should be growing up seeing in terms of love. It could be very confusing. Like, who is the husband? Why is the dad sharing his wife with two other men? Like, these things are confusing. Kids aren't supposed to be seeing this. They're supposed to be growing up in a nurturing, loving home, and they're getting, the worst end of this because they're having to experience this because of the selfishness of the adults involved. I don't even know, if I'm being honest, I don't even know the developmental capacity of the men in this relationship based off how she spoke about them. But I just think this dynamic and even people's intrigue in this is interesting and worth the conversation because obviously she's answering these questions because people are asking. And that doesn't say a lot because it's honestly easy to intrigue us as human beings, and most humans aren't walking around saying they're married to two people and have a boyfriend as well. So I get it. And, it's a lot that can be said, but ultimately I just want to focus on three things. Happiness does not mean it's right. Just because you love someone or love something doesn't mean that it's good for you, good for society, good for the home, good for the children. And lastly, when children are involved, they need an example of God's design of what family is supposed to be. And unfortunately, I'm missing this in this situation, but it's so much going on. So there are other things that, kids miss and have to deal with as well. But it's a great conversation. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Also, if you haven't connected with us, connect with the brand online at www.there'shopebrand.com. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. There's information in the description of how you can donate to this brand and ministry if you desire to do that. Also, there's merch. Check out the merch on our website. We'll soon have a shop set up on YouTube, so you'll be able to see the merch there as well. But let me know what you think about the video in the comment section, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.